I was just going over what happened this week. So we opened. I was just telling everybody we opened it at Atten, and for those of you that Jason had not started watching until this week. Now you
Yeah,
didn't.
it was a speedy catch up, but it was
Yeah,
an easy watch. Like I was so stoked to get a Star Wars thing I liked.
yeah. It's just so great to get Star Wars that doesn't make you gnash your teeth. you know, you just smile when it's over, and it's fun. So
hmm
I was saying here's a good thing is a lot of this is going to be fresher for Jason, so you can help me with some of the things that happened in earlier episodes.
hmm
There's a different experience streaming something or binging something. Binging something is totally different than watching something in 30-minute installments 1 week at a time. It's a
hmm
different experience, so we can get into that. But I did want to run through what happened. So we open it at Atten, and the kids' parents are trying to put something together. We're on Wim's dad, and he's working in this very important work that everybody's so excited about. And he looks up, and Neil's mom is there, and she gives him some type of hacking device to steal information to get a message past the barrier. And he tries to do it, but immediately gets caught by a droid because there's a power surge. He does the little children's thing where he shows the droid one hand at a time, but that doesn't work. And he's immediately taken to his immediate supervisor, who is Fern's mom. So Fern's mom tells the droid to shut down and erase all memory. Turns out she was not in on this plan, but she's not going to bust Wim's dad. She says, I'm trying to do this for through official channels. And it turns out the supervisor, whatever the supervisor is, she doesn't have faith that he's going to do what's right or try to help her at all. And so they're going to proceed with their plan to try to get a message past the barrier. That's when we get back to our crew. They have roped SM-33 down, and they're going to turn him back on to try to find the coordinates to at. And that's where Tim's comment was saying, like, it was kind of weird that last week he was going to tear them from them, but this week he's like, oh, that's the old captain's orders. I don't have to obey those. But I think there was some dialogue there with KB when they were tying him down that she had rerouted some circuits and some things with the memory bank
hmm
that explained they did some reprogramming while he was shut down that might explain his thing. It was funny that they went to so much trouble to try to secure him, and he didn't care. And then when it was like, well, okay, we'll take it. He doesn't know where Atten is. He doesn't have those coordinates, but he does know where they are. And they said, well, take us there. He just like busts the ropes and goes to the thing. What they did absolutely nothing. And they do find out we have a name for our ship, but you can't sell Lego sets of a ship without a name. You got to have a name. You got to name all your ships.
It's not
Yeah,
Star Wars if the ship doesn't have a name.
right. Every ship that you see in every Star Wars movie, every character on the screen, they all have names. Nothing gets no name. So we are on the Onyx Cinder, which was previously captained by the renowned, the notorious Captain Tack Renard, the famous pirate.
Yeah.
And he was SM-33's previous captain who famously went missing looking for Atten. His ship, his crew, everything, which of course makes sense because we know that his ship was crash landed and marooned on Atten for an unspecified period of time. So we're going to go to his hidden, dangerous headquarters on this, secret pirate planet full of danger and bodies. And we're going to go to, what's it called? Skull Ridge Mountain. And SM-33 is talking about all the horrors of Skull Ridge Mountain. And of course, we get there, and it's Star Wars version of hedonism. It's an adult pleasure planet where children aren't allowed, and people do fetish stuff and get renewed in baths. So even though the children are banned, they still have a bunch of Old Republic credits. So Jod, Captain Silva, whatever you want to call him, has the kids cough up all their credits so he can start heavily bribing people to get them a room. SM-33 lets them know that the pirate's hoard, his booty, could not possibly have been discovered because it is deep in the heart of the mountain, and that he marked the entrance with his symbol, and he shows them the symbol. So, of course, they all split up to go looking for the symbol. We have Neil and Fern, right? No, Neil and KB go with Jana, and Wim and Fern go off alone. They find this symbol down in the spas where there's this huge aquatic creature that we think is going to be a threat, but turns out to just want to hear stories.
Was awesome, by the way. Like, maybe one of my favorite designs that I've seen in Star Wars in a long time.
Yes, he was so cool. He was so intimidating that you turn out he's just this fun character. Go back to Captain Silvo, KB and Neil. The security at the desk when they were checking in, Captain Silvo here, Crimson Jack, we find a new alias. I think it was Dash Zenton, because he runs into a bounty hunter named Pocket, who he is, of course, screwed over. Because we have not met anyone that he knows that he is not screwed over.
And, I love that every episode has been people just being like, this guy is going to screw you over. And the kids being like, nah, it's all right.
Nah, he seems cool. It's all right. So anyway, they're warned again, but he's telling. Now, they're in a hurry. The kids want to hang out, have pillow fights, eat at the buffet, and he's like, no, we got to hurry because she's going to drop a dime, and those angry pirates are going to be here any minute. So in the meantime, she has dropped a dime. The security forces have surrounded Jadna and Neil and KB. KB gets them out of it with some fun hot mud action, and they meet up, and Wim and Fern's new friend busts them through the entrance. They get down. This is where we get the things that Travis and Tim were looking for last week. We get the Goonies, Raiders of the Lost Ark, traps. We get the pirate traps going to the booty, which is fun. We get the decapitating laser, which of course the kids are fine with because they're too short and to be worried about. Yeah, we get the acid floor, which you have to make the ultimate sacrifice, which of course to a pirate is not the life of somebody. It's booty, it's gold, treasure. So they threw their last credit in, and that's what gets them in. They get in there, and of course it's the Cave of Wonders. We're in Aladdin now. You can't touch any of the booty because of course it's going to be booby trapped. They get the door closed behind them so the other pirates can't get to them, and they're looking for the captain's logs, his data port. And Neil finds a roast that is not rotten among all the rotten food. It's booby trapped too, but to get around that, Captain Silvo, Jude Law, gets it. The data port comes open. SM3 accesses it, and we have the coordinates to Atten. And we also play the last log entry of Captain Renaud, and we do learn that Atten was the last standing Old Republic mint. And that's why it is the world of lost treasure, because it's where they make the money.
Endless treasure.
Yeah. So, but we do have angry pirates at the door. But at this point, Jude Law tells SM33, hey, fill that back up with acid. Mm-hmm. This is a kid's show, but them pirates were screaming. I don't know if we're supposed to believe that they ran up the steps.
No, they're dead.
They're dead.
Like an 80s kids show. Like when you watch the Goonies, like people died in the Goonies.
Right. Yeah. And I was talking about this, and you just watched it all back in episode 2. This is very much an 80s kids show. Like they get to that pirate planet, and there's brothels and people doing drugs.
Well. And there's people throwing up because they got too drunk at the bar.
Right.
And have we gotten to the big reveal that, what's his face, the pirate whose lair they're in at the end, was killed by his mistress?
Yeah, he was killed by his concubine. The kids are like, what's a concubine? He's like, we'll talk about that later.
Great line, by the way.
Yeah. Ask your parents, So at this point, we've gotten the last log. We know that it's the mint. The very importantly, the recording is messed up. Something's corrupted it, and we don't get a good look at Captain Renaud. So we may know who he is. When that's finally revealed, it may be someone that we've seen before. But it is at this point that all that foreshadowing comes to a head. And Jude Law, a.k.a. Crimson Jack, Captain Silvo, Dash Zinton, Jobwood, Zach, whatever, gets his knife and he turns on him. He challenges Fern to the captaincy through single combat, which is in the pirate code. And when she will not yield, he has to hold a knife to her throat until she yields. And now he is the captain.
Lightsaber scene ever.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, because our hero Wim has decided he's going to stand up to him and goes. There's a real lightsaber in the Cave of Wonders in this pirate booty, and he's like, "Stop!" And this we learned about Star Wars gun safety. Lock up your dangerous weapons from children, folks. It doesn't matter if it's a pistol or if it's a lightsaber, because Wim thinks he's going to defend her with this lightsaber, and of course he has the hilt pointed. He has it pointed at the ground, and he's very lucky to still have all of his toes. Yeah, or he's very lucky that like we didn't have a Rick and Morty moment where it went straight down, and now it's going to barrel through the center of the planet. But
I was worried about that. I was like, my gosh, we're going to get corny now. And when Bell, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love this show.
Yeah. So it futzes out and he drops it. And now the kids, though, in the distraction, he lets go of Fern. And Neil remembers that there was a trap door with that roast that revealed the data port. And they all get on the trap door and hit the button and fall through the floor. Mm-hmm. At this point, Jana or whatever, he grabs the lightsaber with the Force. Mm-hmm. And we hear it ignite. We don't see it ignite, but we hear it. And he is wielding, and then we go to black. We go to the end. The one thing I did miss, at one point, Wim finally breaks down, and we get some interesting dialogue. Let's see what we got in the comments here. Starting with Barry Allen is slow. Jude Law in the most unsurprising heel turn since Jeff Bridges in Iron Man. Yeah.
It's up there.
Mean, everybody who has ever met him tells these kids,
he's going to mess you over.
Yeah, we got Kim, Mrs. Al. We had Pocket here. We've had everybody telling you, like, don't trust this guy. But, of course, they're forced to keep rolling with him. But, no, that is not. And here's the thing, though. He does make her yield. His eyes get super excited when he finds out it's the mint. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't want to commit violence against these kids. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't gone. What's that?
I have a theory why that is, but
yeah. Let's see. Jon Snow knows nothing. The spa planet was a super weird setting, especially considering it was supposedly inhabited by pirates not too long before this. Now, here's the thing. We don't know how long it's been.
Well, it's obviously been a while because they built a spa on top of it.
We have no clue how long. Go ahead.
That ship has been buried in or however you say it.
At Atten, yeah.
For a while because it was like covered in dirt.
Yeah. Like whole forests had grown on top of it with trees. So we really have no clue how long the Onyx Cinder has been there. How long? Well, this captain has passed on into legend.
Yeah.
Because our Captain Silver's like, oh, that's the legendary pirate. And of course, like in Star Wars, this is perfect. I like it because we know it was a long time ago, but we don't know exactly how long ago. We just know, just like when you watched the original trilogy, you knew the Jedi stuff was like, it was a while back, but you don't know how far back. And when you find out it was only like about 17, 18 years, that's not as cool as what you imagined,
No, not at all, yeah.
So this one, it's pretty cool. And I thought the spa was funny.
Also, kind of a reference to Darth Plagueis?
Plagueis?
Yeah, there was a reference to him.
I missed it. He was at the spa planet, or?
Yeah, supposedly like the money makers or whatever.
Yeah.
From that were in the mud spa. That's what he was. He was that race or whatever.
Yeah. They were all tall and spindly. Yeah. And then
they would Sith hieroglyphics on the cave. So,
yeah. And then now we did talk about how in episode 1 and 2 they had quite a few practical effects of creatures as opposed to CG. They've kind of abandoned that and went to the CG.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and the CG doesn't look great. Do not like CG huts.
No.
Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi showed you what a hut should and look like, and it was totally convincing. It was absolutely a puppet, but I understand that's expensive. But I did, even though it looked like a cartoon, I enjoyed the hut that ate the servant that brought him a snack instead of the snack. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I started to get iffy. I don't like the idea of the Hutts being involved at all. I was like, let's just have a story independent of every character that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They did for the most part. Like, the fact that there's a space werewolf in this is...
Yeah.
We've made it. Like, I was like, just don't connect it.
Yeah. and then for those of us that don't know, me and Tim know Jason through Jonathan. Jonathan did our week 1 and 2 review. And we tease him that the werewolf is his favorite character because he hated the werewolf. He thought that the mask looked cheap. He's deeply committed to CG and things that look like cartoons. Yeah. So yeah, he hated that character. So it's great that you called it out as cool because I think he's cool.
Oh yeah, he's super cool. He's a space werewolf.
Right. And that species, it was in the original cut of Star Wars. Not A New Hope. I'm talking before they called it A New Hope, when it was just called Star Wars. The original cantina scene, basically they raided the creature effects warehouse and just put everything in the cantina because they didn't have budget for a whole bunch of other new stuff. And as soon as they started making special editions is when George took him out, and he's never been back. But we got him back. So now Barry Allen is slow. He says Pocket is definitely going to be trouble later in the series, and we are going to hear a lot more about what happened between her and Crimson Jack, or whatever his name is. So I would like to see more of her. She's I recognize her voice. I don't know what else she was in because I didn't take the time to look it up. I watched the episode today, but she was a fun character. I liked her.
I like this kind of underground world where we don't know everything, but we know people are connected.
Yes.
The Pirates of the Caribbean movies did that.
Yeah.
And that was like my favorite part, was like there's this world that we don't quite understand, which, you know, is kind of what this entire episode was about, was the fact that like you think you get it, but you don't really get it.
Right. And that's like, me and Jason agree on this a lot. The less, the better on some of this stuff. And as you unlock the mysteries, it becomes, if you got something like Wolverine, someone like Boba Fett, the mystery is baked into the appeal of that character. And the more you take it away, you just diminish the character. You know.
That being said, who do you think the supervisor is?
I'm thinking that we're going to find out that the supervisor is a droid. I think it's like I think we're going to do a Star Trek trope. And we've got a planet being read by a power Mac computer. What's your theory on the supervisor?
I don't think there is one. I think it's all bureaucracy. I think, and I think Fern's mom knows more than what she's saying.
So it's just they're just running on regulations, and there's really nobody at the top, and that would make sense because they're still minting money for a government that hasn't existed at this point for probably well over 20 years. Because this happens. What's that?
And it's just like if you look at the first episode where they're getting ready to like rate them where they go, like what they're going to be for the rest of their life and their careers, I was like, man, that's awful bureaucratic. Yeah. And I think that's what the big twist is that there's no supervisor and everyone is just kind of doing their own thing. And that's how the ship could have been there for decades and nobody know it.
Because everybody's just dutifully following the regulations and doing their boring stuff. Nobody looks up. And I did, the first episode, the droid was speaking like it was so nothing. That it was almost Charlie Brown. You were almost getting womp 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 womp. But I was like, maybe the droid just said something important when they were at school, And I went back, and that droid was talking about monitoring exchange rates and currency exchanges. So that makes sense that this is a mint, you know, and that's what's going on to that planet because they're obsessed with currency. What's our next comment? Tim's back. He goes, will we ever find out Jude Law's real name, or will it just be a string of burned aliases?
I have a theory about Jude Law, too.
Okay. What's your theory?
I think he's one of the children that survived Anakin going crazy.
All right. So, yeah, going back, I did kind of skip over the discussion that he had with Wynn on the ship. Because in the ship, once they decide that they're going to Skull Island, Wim goes off to himself and finally has a breakdown. He's been trying to have a fun adventure like this is an amusement park ride the whole time. I think the gravity of the fact that this is actually, and I might die and I might never see my father or my home again, it finally hits him and he's crying. And what Wim says to comfort him, because he says, you'll see him again. He goes, not my mom. Wim sits down and says, you need to forget about your home planet. You need to forget about your parents. These are what we call attachments, and attachments hold you back. And that is some Jedi. That is some Jedi philosophy right there. This is what the Jedi tell people. And then the last thing he tells them is your focus determines your reality. And I read something that is a direct quote of something that Qui-Gon said in Phantom Menace to Anakin. He said that exact thing. So
I think he survived the Anakin massacre is what I think.
Yeah, he was a youngling. He had some level of training. And the thing of it is, if you are a Force user, Force-sensitive person in the Imperial time frame, what are you going to do? I mean, you're either going to be a rebel and try to hook up with the rebellion and do that, but it's not big and widespread. It's not easy to find. And if you're jaded and disillusioned, you're not going to do that. You're already a criminal. You are illegal by your very existence. So you might as well join in with criminals, and become a pirate. It's one of the, so yeah, it looks like he's probably going to be a youngling. We'll see how good he is with that lightsaber next week. Barry Allen is slow. Okay, we finally saw him break down. Like, it took 5 episodes to figure out shit got real. Yeah. I think maybe it's when they loaded him up with guns and sent him in the front lines. Like, go see if somebody shoots at you last week.
Or it's when they went to the weird P. Diddy Island.
Yeah. Now that they're on child molesters, like, you can't bring any of your own children. We charge you for those. That's like bringing your own 6-pack to the bar. They won't let you do it.
And the Goonies was, we're going to put on the pirate outfits.
Yeah.
Like, that was so fun. Like, I love everything about this show.
Yeah, we're going to be the sacred elders for a minute. But we're still going to be kids that get in a fight and, like, totally blow the whole thing. Oh, let's see. We got Tim back. So it was indeed confirmed that Anakin was the last remaining Old Republic mint. It's still super weird how droids run the whole planet, but they can be easily overridden by Fern's mom.
Almost like there's nothing actually running the planet.
Yeah, I feel like you might be right. It's just a bunch of, it's manned by a bunch of conformist people who are not questioning authority. And so even though there's nothing enforcing it, it just goes on its own momentum. Let's see, what do we got here? Jon Snow knows nothing. This was not a bad episode, but it did give us more questions than answers. And I don't know if they have time to answer those questions in the next 3 episodes.
Oh, I think they're going to set up for season 2.
Yeah. I mean,
this is the first Star Wars show since, Mandalorian season 1 that's been positive. Like, I haven't seen any negative about this show. Yeah.
Well, in the comments here, we do get it. Because DDS is strong. And if you don't know, DDS is Disney Derangement Syndrome. And me and Tim acknowledge, you know that the big bad mouse has hurt us all, and he has touched us in bad places. But that doesn't mean that everything they do is bad and that it can't be, they're incapable of doing something good. And so we have to, when something is good, we have to acknowledge it. We can't just pretend it's as bad. And this is great.
This has been so much fun. It's not connected to really
Yeah.
anything. It's its own thing. Like, it's like they listened to what I wanted. Like, none of these kids are Skywalkers. KD is probably one of my favorite new characters that I've seen in not just Star Wars, in anything. Like, she is awesome.
Yeah, she always knows what's going on, but she's not too hyper confident. She was kind of scared to go into the spa this week because she would get corrosion in her implants, which was
fun. She has
fun.
that badass visor.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I think Neil is the first marketable character they have produced since Grogu, since Baby Yoda.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because, I'm seeing there's going to be Neil stuffed animals, Neil everything. Now, I've been talking every week, Jason, and I don't know what you think, but you've hit on something I keep saying, is that this is a kids show, but it's made for Gen X kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about this with Bonebridger and Tim. I'm Gen X. I was born in 79. I'm a little older than everybody else. Mm-hmm. But all of us live in flyover country. So a flyover millennial is pretty much a Gen Xer because we're always a little behind the changes in time. So, these kids have drinking Star Wars hose water. They play outside, they have action figures. They ride speeders, which are kind of like, it would be like having a motorbike, or a moped for a kid.
Parents have no idea what their kids are doing 95% of the time. And it's refreshing.
These are latchkey kids. You know what I'm saying? This is E.T., it's the Goonies, it's all those 80s adventures, because that was our life in that era. When you grew up in that era, your parents you got off school, your parents didn't go off work for another 2 or 3 hours, maybe 4. And by the time they got home, you weren't there anymore. You had got home from school, you told them you did your homework, and maybe you had and maybe you hadn't. But you were not at home, and you came home when it got dark or maybe a little bit after that. They didn't know what you were doing. So
there was no cell phones. Nobody was videoing anything.
Right. So I don't know if this generation's kids can relate to these characters. I hope they can.
Well, I think they can, because it looks like what Star Wars did. I was thinking about this in the car today. They just basically took Stranger Things, kind of mixed it up just a little bit, and then put it out. And Stranger Things is extremely popular, so...
Yeah. So hopefully this finds a big audience. And I think that it's okay if we don't answer all the questions. Like, even if we get a season 2, I like mystery. I like mysteries that we know. It gives us this sense of having this big universe to explore. And like sometimes questions get arisen and we don't even answer those. We just leave them there and we go somewhere else in the universe because it creates this sense of scale. So, Barry and Alice Slow, whoever had the OU on over-under on Jude Law picking up a lightsaber by episode 5 just won the pool.
Yeah, you knew that lightsaber was coming from the first episode where he had the toy one and they were playing and Which, how great is that scene, by the way? I know we're talking about episode 1, but I was in when the bus comes by them and the other kids are like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "My gosh, this is made for me."
Yeah, this is perfect. They're into this and it makes them weird, and it is so. Again, it is so Gen X. It is so cool. I don't think kids today even ostracize other kids about being. I don't know. Maybe I watch too much of the news. Maybe kids are still kids. But it was just great. Let's see. On an unrelated note, I agree with your recent conclusion that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
1,000%.
Yes. Jason. And we should have done this. We should have had Jason on to have the fight because he would have brought more passion than Tim, I think. Tim did a good job, but Jason. But hey, you know what I just saw? It was on Facebook.
What?
And I don't know if this one counts. Die Hard definitely counts, but somebody posted First Blood is a Christmas movie.
That one, I've seen that one. It's not integral to the plot of it being a Christmas movie, Dr. Chill.
Right. He's passing through town. It could be any time of year.
Yeah, exactly. Like Die Hard, I disagreed with the guy with the awesome background. If you take Die Hard out of Christmas, like make it at a different time of year, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Like, why is he coming? Why is it so important that he gets back together with family at the same time that the business is closing this huge deal? But all of these monumental things do happen at the end of the year and at Christmas time. So it just
exactly.
Plus the soundtrack.
Yeah,
First Blood doesn't have any Christmas songs in the soundtrack. You know, it's just got the score. So now we've got Tim. How callous is Jude Law's character? He was just like drown all those guys in acid.
Well, no, look, dude, if he is what I think he is, I think he's been through a lot. So yeah, he is very callous.
Yeah, he's the kind of. I mean, he's survived. If he's a youngling,
he survived Anakin.
Yeah, he watched other kids getting slaughtered left and right. He might have had to play dead in the bottom of a heap of his dying friends to be alive today. So
I don't know if they'll go that dark, but if I was directing, I would.
yeah. And I mean, these guys locked him up. He was their captain. Mm-hmm. And they committed mutiny. They locked him up. I mean, you know, maybe he just figures they get what they get, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But hey,
they were getting ready to kill him. Like that. They
right.
say that in the cell. He's like, yeah, your trial is coming up, which is odd that pirates do trials. But,
you know. Yeah. So, and he didn't kill Fern. So, I mean, hey, you know, I mean, he could have definitely killed Fern.
Oh, he's gonna Jack Sparrow it. Like he's gonna be redeemable by the end of it.
Yeah, this is like I've said. He's got strong Han Solo energy.
Mm-hmm.
By the end, he could be a hero.
Oh, definitely. He's turning face. Like that's happening.
So, let me ask: having now, when did you start watching? Did you watch them some today and some yesterday?
I watched all of it today.
All straight through. Yeah. So. Watching it in one setting, some of the things that people like Tim and Travis, I think Jonathan mentioned it, Bonebridger mentioned it, because Jonathan was here for 1 and 2. Bonebridger dropped in for episode 3. Mm-hmm. We had Tim's college roommate Travis last week. And episode 1, Jonathan felt like it was a little slow, but he loved episode 2 because it was right out there, and that hooked him a little better. But then 3 and 4, we were getting the impression that they were a little slow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, again, they're only like 25, 30 minutes long. So when you're watching it straight through, does it feel slow, or does it feel just like a chapter that's, you know?
It feels like you're reading a book a little bit. And I don't mean that as an insult, but, like, everything builds perfectly on top of itself. Yeah. But I could see, like, if it were weekly, now next week, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, let's get going. I feel like all the way through, it's just like you're reading a book. Like, it was a book I couldn't put down. I intended to watch a little bit and then do stuff and then come back. But I just got hooked. And it's like, even though 1 was slow, I'm a big character guy. Like, I need to have characters that I like, which is, you know, where some of my arguments come with. Jonathan especially, I'm in a lot of movies. Like, I'm a big character-driven guy, and Jonathan is more of an action guy. And I'm not saying he's wrong and I'm right, but, you know.
Yeah. I feel like I like characters, too. Like, I haven't said anything, but, like, I haven't joined into the conversations where people have been saying the episodes were slow. I didn't really feel like any of them were slow to an extent that bothered me at all. I thought the pacing has been good because I like character moments and dialogue.
And the stuff we're getting is good. Like, it's not just throwaway. There hasn't been one thing where I'm like, why was that in there?
Yeah. And these characters they're individuals. It's just not a group of 4 kids with the same personality. You know what I'm saying? They don't just all have a same rubber stamp young kid personality. They all have their own personality, which is cool. And by this episode, we've finally gotten to where I know Bonebridger was wondering if they were going to get some extra development in these characters, because through the first three, it's coming off that Fern is a little bit too confident. She's a little bit too right all the time, you know, through the first three or so. And then Wynn was just a little bit too clueless. You know, he was going through life just a little bit too happy. But by the end of this episode, last week, the gravity finally hit Fern. And she was like, I don't always have the answers. You know what I'm saying? I'm freaking out here. And this week, it finally hit Wynn that, like, oh, this is dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, adventures are not fun, you know, unless you're reading about it or watching it on a show. You know, when it's your life in jeopardy, it's not a good time. So I think by this episode, all these characters have been well established as being very well rounded, a good group that you can root for. So yeah, I've enjoyed it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just really hope it. I know that the viewership, the retention has been good, and it's been gaining ground as opposed to losing it. But I know viewership is a little low. I hope that turns around.
That's troubling, because this has been the first thing I've been excited about. Even like Mandalorian, which I liked, didn't get me as excited as this, because the Mandalorian, I didn't feel like there were characters that, like, I see a little bit of 10-year-old Jason and Wynn.
Yeah.
Like, I see, if you would have put 10-year-old Jason in that situation, it would have been a minute before I realized, like, oh, I'm in danger.
Yeah. So it's good. Like Bonebridger said, could you imagine if Disney had just made like Rogue One and like Mandalorian season 1 and 2, and then this?
Yeah, it would have been incredible.
Yeah, and then like Andor. Yeah, and it's just if they would just stay away from the main line. It seems like they just don't know what to do with the mainline characters. They just don't get it. And they want to monkey with it, but if they get away from it, they can make good things.
Because there's good stuff out there. Like that's like, not everything has to be a Skywalker, or, you know, it doesn't have to be like that. It statistically can't in a universe as big as Star Wars. Like,
yeah. And I do feel like this was supposed to be a kids show, and it didn't involve any of the legacy characters. So I feel like they got a freer hand. Like Kathleen Kennedy was not deeply involved in the development of this, I don't think. I mean, she'll probably claim that she was now that people like it.
Oh, yeah, that's coming.
Yeah, but I feel like your quality is totally, like, it's proportional. It's inversely proportional to how involved she is. If she stays away, good things could be made.
Oh, yeah.
Because even the story of the Acolyte, Leslie Headland brought her the first draft of it, and Kathleen Kennedy is like, well, that's a good Star Wars story, but I want you to give me a good Leslie Headland story. And it's like, was the first draft a good Star Wars story? Maybe it was. You know?
I think I made it like 4 episodes in.
Yeah. So,
to the space witches.
Yeah. And it's just like, and you know, how much of that was Kathleen Kennedy demanding that they keep reshaping things and redefining stuff, when all you need is a fun adventure story in space, in this setting? You know, you have an aesthetic, and basically all you have to do to make it Star Wars is have this aesthetic, this kind of used universe aesthetic.
And you can throw little, like, Easter eggs, like the Plagueis, or the Sith hieroglyphics, or, you know, like, even Jude Law being a survivor of Anakin.
Yeah.
I think that would be fine. It can't be the main crux of the story.
And they've done such a great job with some of the reasons coming in that I was afraid that this might be bad are reasons that I now think it's great because you suffered through the holiday special with us.
There was a callback to that in the episode.
Yeah. You suffered through that, and you suffered through Battle for Endor with us. And I thought, when I found out that the Hollow Table thing was going to be in this, which I found out before I saw it, when I found out there was going to be a Teak character in it, I was like, oh, this is going to be awful. But the fact that it's throwaway scenes, and they're little Easter eggs for people that have seen this stuff to see and be like, oh, I've seen that. I get that. It makes it so fun.
It really does. Fun is the exact word to put it. I feel like I'm reading a Stephen King novel, not the horror aspect, but definitely like his characters and their dialogue.
Yeah.
I feel like it feels like it without anything scary happening or anything supernatural happening.
Well, this is like when we were doing our review of episode 1 and 2, I did a whole list because people always said it's Space Goonies, and it is Goonies. It feels very Goonies. But it's not just Goonies. Goonies was part of a whole series of things that came out in the 80s. And my other examples was Explorers, which I don't know if you know Explorers, but that was in the 80s. They built a spaceship in the backyard, and they go to space. And then E.T.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely E.T. with like the group of kids that do things, the latchkey, the divorced parents. And then the other one I came up with was Stand By Me. Which
definitely.
Yeah, that's a Stephen King short story that movie is based on. And Stephen King, like people always say Spielberg, but Stephen King was great with kids and kid interactions too. Like, you know, it was kids, but it was not dumbed down for kids. It was actual kids that were like smart in these stories that you don't see today.
Yeah. And then so when you jump, I feel like you jump from that to you get I'm drawing a blank. You get kind of in the second episode you go Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Not an insult. Like those movies got real cheesy towards the end, but I thought during the whole lead up, the first two are brilliant.
Yeah.
And they're just fun. They're swashbuckling fun.
You know, and SM-33 is so fun. He's Treasure Island. Yeah, I don't say it's like I mean, this is Long John Silver. This is John Silver in space, and he's a droid with a rodent who lives in his head. You know, the rodent living in his head is
it popping out of the eyeball.
Yeah,
that's super fun.
I love how Neil took him on the adventure on the pirate thing, and yet the thing found its way home to SM-33's head. You know, that's just perfect. Let's see. Do we have we got Tim again. He said, I almost forgot about the job, or at least a HUD of some kind siding. Personally didn't care for that. See,
I didn't need him in there.
Yeah. I didn't like the CG because I didn't buy it. But I thought it was funny that he ate the attendant instead of what the attendant brought. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was fun, but it would have just been better if it wasn't a hut.
Yeah. I mean, it is cool to see all new creatures.
Yes. That water thing. That water thing was dope. With the whiskers and whatnot. That thing was awesome.
Yeah. And here's another thing. He was CG, but if you put a CG character in the dark, it's easier. You can render it and you can sell it. If you put it out in the bright sunlight for the whole world to see, we're going to see every flaw, man. But if you put him in a dark spa cave and you put steam in the room, all of a sudden you could sell it. You could make it work, you know?
Yeah, he looks lit in that.
Yeah. So, yeah. But this show, I mean, nothing's perfect and whatever. Like, you know, the hut could have looked like, but this show is so fun. Yes. If you watch this,
yeah, that's the way I would describe it.
If you watch this and still go away griping about how Disney Star Wars has ruined everything and they can't do anything right, and then I don't know what's wrong with you, man. You know, I mean, yeah. This is what Star Wars should be. This is exactly. I mean, it's high adventure. It's swashbuckling. You know, this is the action sequence at the very top of the series, at the top of season 1 of episode 1.
Yeah.
Where Captain Silvo is doing the raid of the ship, and they find the 1 credit, and they mutiny on him.
Yeah.
That was the only action in episode 1, but I thought that was some of the best action sequence we've seen from Star Wars in a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely. The bridges being taken down and people like swinging to take the Gatling guns down, like that was super fun.
Yeah, and that was one in our review. Jonathan had to stop me and try to tell me that there was better action in the Acolyte than that raid.
He's out of his mind. He is out of his mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's having understanding. I mean, just because you have a cool fight sequence, that doesn't make it Star Wars. Yeah, just having a little bit of cool fight choreography doesn't get it done. Like the fight choreography in the first episode of Acolyte, when she's fighting Carrie Ann Moss. I mean, if that's in a kung fu movie, fine, you know. Yeah. But you don't do a Star Wars project where a Jedi Master gets stabbed by a dagger. You know, it just negates everything. It just makes it stupid.
All right, I'm going to bring it back to something we've been having a conversation in the group chat.
Okay.
It's almost like you need heart instead of just really cool visuals.
Yes. I mean, it's almost like story and character matter a little bit, you know? I mean, almost.
Yeah, it's almost like it's okay to have a little joy in something.
Yeah, so it's just a string of heavy metal album covers put together doesn't make for a great movie. Yeah, that might be.
Superman can smile, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, your Superman, not just as some AI generated thing that you post on Christmas, but in your actual movie, Superman can smile. I think the Superman trailer is still the biggest news in all of nerd stuff.
Definitely. This Star Wars should be there.
Yeah. Yes, it should. Yeah, exactly.
Like we finally got a good one, guys. Like, get into this.
Yeah, please. I know that you've been burned. I know that you don't want to acknowledge that, you know, anything can ever good happen again. But trust me, they finally.
Hey, listen, guys. Like, if you don't, they're gonna give us more Acolyte. We don't need that.
Yeah, they'll decide that this was the problem. You know, and not all the other stuff. Oh, so anyway, but I think we covered it. Again, where can they find you, Jason?
I'm on Instagram at JasonG413. I also have a podcast called Jason Explains It All, and I sometimes regular a podcast called Your Imaginary Podcast. So I'm all over everywhere.
All right. So find Jason wherever you do your podcast. Find him on Instagram. We're here at Nerd Champs. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And we'll be back next Thursday. Maybe Jason will be back too. Tim will be here.
I will be here, like, because I'm in now.
Yeah. It's such a, I don't know how anybody could watch this and not be just totally pleased. But until then,
I love it.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.